Welcome to Abandoned Albums, the documentary podcast. Each week, our intrepid group of researchers and music archivists dig through the record crates of the world, finding those albums that may have been lost over time. If a new artist is discovered along the way, that's all the better. Using a patent-pending algorithm and spirited debate, we pick one album to discuss. Once that is settled, we will invite the artists to Thunderlove Studio to chat with your hosts, Keith R. Higgins and Geoff Calhoun. When we're lucky, they say yes. Our mission with Abandoned Albums is simple: to make sure artists' recorded work remains, or in some cases, lands on, the cultural radar. We invite you to sit back and relax. Thank you for joining us.
Don't need to make a lot of money, and I don't need a lot of friends. Don't need to live up in the penthouse. Don't need to drive a Mercedes Benz. And I don't wanna be a monkey, and I don't wanna just be friends. Don't you treat me like a sister, unless you wanna make my heart rent. I wanna take you to the movies. I wanna make out in the backseat. I wanna take you to a higher place. I wanna take you there with me. Holy rollers, baby strollers, take up a little space in my mind. These toy soldiers, emotional freeloaders, will not get away with their crimes. But I don't wanna do a big time, but once in a while it might be nice. It's not even worth the trouble. You know they say that fame has its price. You can be my peanut butter, and I can be your strawberry jam.
This week, we welcome the husband and wife team of Rachel McNally and Chris O'Rourke from the band Sleepyhead to Thunderlove Studio. Fiercely independent, the band has built a loyal and dedicated following throughout its career, including a host of fellow musicians, critics, and our own Geoff Calhoun. They're a band that continues to record, and what you're hearing right now is their latest release, I Guess I'm Hoping That You're Lonely. What follows is a career-spanning conversation with a band that may be difficult to categorize, unless that category is just plain awesome. Without any further delay, here is our conversation with Rachel and Chris of Sleepyhead.
Hey, Troy.
I was pleasantly surprised with the StreamYard app.
Yeah, for some reason wait, hang on. I don't see you guys.
We can see you.
Okay, well that's promising. Maybe I've never used the StreamYard app. You can hear us.
Yep,
we
can
hear you. We see you. We see your ceiling fan.
It's like therapy. I am seeing you. I am hearing you.
We acknowledge you.
It's kind of annoying though.
Yeah.
You know what?
Do you want to go out and come back in?
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay.
Have you tried turning it off and back on again?
Yeah, you'll try that.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, that worked. All right, Rachel's gonna be picky about.
I
my
know,
God.
I don't like it when we're lurking down.
Spinning's gonna drive. I know you're
No,
not
but
doing
we
video,
do-
but
Wait a second.
We do utilize.
we'll get this. We're teachers. We taught on Zoom during.
So we do
pandemic.
use the video
Yes,
element to do
we
stuff like this. Oh,
How's that?
yay.
Cool.
Welcome, Chris and Rachel from the the rock band Sleepyhead.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. Very nice to meet you guys.
I always point the wrong direction. That's Keith. I'm Geoff. We're Abandoned Albums. And wow.
Chris.
So, Keith, I want to start off our conversation by talking about sequencing. And sometimes we talk about sequencing in terms of the order songs come on a record and how that influences you. No, I want to talk about sequencing in terms of discovery and how in your brain we establish a catalog of things that, depending on when you discovered it, you may think. So, for example, Sleepyhead is a band that, and I was just holding up for the listeners at home that can't see the audio, I'm holding up a lovely vinyl copy of the Sleepyhead album Starduster, which I discovered in a skateboard shop that happened to also sell CDs, and was one of those things where back in 93, I think? 94?
It came out in 94.
94. So in 1994, we didn't have Spotify. We didn't have Bandcamp. You didn't
even have Napster.
You had to go and kind of roll the dice on new music discovery. And I liked the album cover, and I thought, let's give this thing a whirl.
Yeah, Rob Reynolds did that album cover.
Yeah. This album came into my life before I discovered Superchunk, before I discovered Yo La Tango, right? So to me, this music almost predates all of that Merge Records catalog that came later in my life. Like, you guys are foundational indie rock to me.
Cool.
Awesome.
So it's, and I know that if I were to ask Yo La Tango, is Sleepyhead a major influence on you? They'd probably say, who are you talking about? Maybe they know you guys. Maybe you party.
Well, you just wait till we start talking about this album, because the original version of most of these songs were recorded in our rehearsal space that we shared with Yo La Tango at that time.
What?
So
Look
there
at
you
that.
go.
Serendipity.
What? What? Hang on. So
people are gonna think we planned this.
dude, hang on. I'm gonna have to pick my brain up off the floor. Give me a second here.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna. This might. Have you ever seen this before? Wait. So this is a very obscure, rare. I don't know. This is an EP that a Spanish label put out that actually has Cake, and it has a bunch of the songs from Starduster on it, and it has the it has the
Does it?
Punk Rock City USA, Like a Girl Jesus came out as a 7-inch. So these were recorded in that practice space in Hoboken that we shared with. At that time, we shared with Das Damen and Yo La Tango, and this guy Fred had set up a little studio in there. And so we basically recorded demos in there, which ended up on this. And then we went into a real studio in Hoboken and re-recorded the songs. And I actually I haven't listened to this one in a long time. I actually forgot about it until right before. Yeah.
I don't know.
So yes, we shared a rehearsal space with Yo La Tango from the very early 90s. In Hoboken, and then they knocked the building down at some point, and we continue to share space with them in a different building in Jersey City. And then they lived in Hoboken. James didn't, and we lived in Manhattan, so we eventually found a rehearsal space in Manhattan. But they were great rehearsal space mates because they practiced during the day every day. which left all the nights open for us to split with Das Damen. So it was we had a lot. It was a very, very good 3-band
combo
of a rehearsal space. Sonic Youth practiced next door, who also practiced during the day most of the time.
Okay.
Wow.
Sonic Youth's been coming up a lot lately.
Yeah.
We need to reach out to Thurston and get him on the show.
So I would say that I'm not sure that we've influenced Yo Tango, but they definitely influenced us, and they helped us a lot. We did a short tour with them, like a week, and we've done some other, like, if you look up, Rachel played drums with them on the Conan O'Brien show.
Wow.
Way back. They did You
ago.
Can Have It All from And Nothing Can Turn Itself Inside Out. I'm saying that wrong. But they wanted Georgia to just sing. So Rachel played drums, and one of the guys from Versus, they have 2 drummers. You can Google that. That was not on the internet for a long time, but now it is.
So recurring theme for your band, Chris.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Sleepyhead lore that you really have to dig on the internet to get to.
Yeah. Well, because we are not very well known, and Yo Tango is very well known, but we go way, way, way back with them.
Some of this stuff you actually have to go directly to the source. I had to go to Slumberland Records website to find a lot of this early stuff, including, so on Starduster is the song Punk Rock City USA.
Which is not on the album called Punk Rock City USA.
Right. You took the question right out of my mouth. What's up with that?
Just seemed like the thing to do at the time. I don't know. We just were like, I think, you know what? I think what it is after when we made the first record, which we also made in New Jersey at a studio, a very weird studio in Orange, East or West, I don't remember. But I think we came up with that name. I think it was probably Mike, our original first bass player. So we named the album that, and then after that album was done, we probably wrote the song. Yeah. So that's why the song ended up on the next record.
Okay, and there is a 7 in it.
There was and then we were like, is it weird to put the song on the other record in the name of the album? And we were like, who cares? Why do we care? Whatever. We're doing whatever we want.
Yes.
So we put it on there.
Speaking of Mike, there is some connection to this half-cocked film that I would love to explore because, and I recently rewatched it as I was preparing for our conversation. I rewatched that movie and I thought so here's where we part ways a little bit is I am a musician. I've played in a bunch of crappy garage bands and since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, Keith's never had the burden of playing in a band and understanding.
Wait, there's like 2 guitars hanging behind him in his room there.
I'm happy to share the story behind each of them. One of them is a Paul Westerberg, whatever Paul Westerberg had a deal with a guitar maker, and I saw it on the streets of Brooklyn for $20. I'm like, okay, I'll have that.
Okay.
And
definitely.
the other 2 guitars I found on the street. They were just being thrown away.
Okay.
So
Good. That's good.
You know, one day I'll get around to playing them.
There you go.
Never too late.
I will teach you soon.
Okay.
But wow, that flick takes me back to all the horrible ideas that we had as high school kids being in a band. And on, I forget where it is. I think it's maybe on the liner notes of Future Exhibits, or Future Exhibit Goes Here.
Right.
There's some reference to the Sleepyhead travels were the impetus for the stories told in that movie.
Yeah, well, it was Mike. I mean, that really was Mike. I had absolutely nothing to do with it, really. Rachel was on. Rachel is in it for like the shortest little scene.
Invisibly.
Yeah.
Invisibly. My role was the line producer for the shoot. And so it was very funny because Mike and Suki, now his wife, they wanted to do this film, and I had taught Suki how to sew, and in like to make a dress. I think she made a dress or a skirt. I forget what it was. But in the process of me teaching her how to do that, she kept saying, "Oh, you could be a line producer. Like you're good at explain." And I mean, we're both teachers. And so I thought,
I wasn't at the
sure. Oh yeah, you weren't. That's true. But you grew up with teachers. You had, it was in his blood. So yeah, so I fell into that in a very backwards way, but it was super fun. So it was a year that I wasn't teaching. Or was I? Were we down there for a vacation?
The shoot was not that long. That could have been in the summer. They shot that really fast.
It was a couple weeks though.
Right.
And in any case, yeah. So I was like the organizer.
And
so like
food cooker.
Right. I was
giant
like
pots of stew and.
Yes, I did all the cooking, all the planning of what happened every day. But it was super fun. And I always tell other teachers, you know what? Just being a teacher, you're ready to be a line producer for a small shoot, because it just takes all that planning and being willing to be in charge. Like there was one guy on the set who would always say, "Rachel, you're the beacon of sanity."
Wow.
Like when everything was going a little crazy. So
she still has that reputation among our friends, I think, too, as an organizer and beacon of sanity.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah, but all the people, like all the actors who aren't really actors, are like people we met on the road, like you know, Crane, Boondoggle, Nation of Ulysses. They were Ruby Falls. They were all people. They were from New York, but they were just all people that we played with and just connected with and slept on their floors in some cases and things like that. So when Mike made the film, he was like, "We don't need real professional actors. We're gonna get these people."
In a couple scenes, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not going to happen at that time. So
the film takes us on this journey where, you know, the sister steals the brother's van and all the band gear in it. And then they're having a horrible time on the road and they get talked into robbing the diners. And I'm like, I wonder how much of this happened to Sleepyhead.
So that van was the Sleepyhead van.
True. Yes.
And did it have the one red door in the movie or after? That van, the van is rusting in peace in a junkyard in the Bronx. But it was a van that belonged to some family friends of mine. Actually, someone I've known all my life who was in the band Six Finger Satellite. We bought the van from them at some point. But this was a later tour after Half Cocked. We were on tour with Half Japanese and Columbus, Ohio, and we parked the car after the show and we're unloading the stuff. And a drunk driver drove and crashed the driver's side door. Luckily, nobody was standing there and got hurt. We found the van was white and blue, but the junkyard only had a red Ford door that matched it perfectly. So for the rest of that van's light that had one red door and the white and blue stripes.
Red, white,
but
and blue.
I think in Half Cocked it still had its normal door.
So.
Yeah, I don't think it had the red door yet.
Right.
We never robbed anyone.
Right. We definitely never robbed anyone.
That's your story and you're sticking to it.
Yes.
But I think what comes across in Half Cocked are just the many moments, the slow moments of a tour, which are real. I mean, I remember we would always get our outfits at thrift stores and I would just buy cheap novels. So that was my escape from any boredom. Like I can block anything out and just disappear into a book. So I didn't actually ever feel bored on a tour, but there certainly is a lot of waiting around.
And obviously no phones in those days, no internet to
no GPS.
No GPS.
Remember the days the Rand McNally was your friend or enemy.
Exactly. No, I think we were sitting in a room. We just straightened up in our house. But there was an atlas that was, I'm sure, from back then.
Yeah, it's on the shelf.
Or the booking agent would print 8 pages of directions and.
But it wasn't pages; it was scrolls from the fax machine.
Yeah.
And as the tour would go on, they'd get pale. It wasn't a good ink.
So that's why we got lost in Louisville.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Those were fun times, though.
Absolutely.
And those people we still are. Those people, we still have that connection will never go away.
Yeah, like the house in the movie, we stayed there. The Rocket House.
The Rocket House in Louisville.
If we played in Louisville, we would be crashing on those floors. So some of the scenes where the band's practicing in a room, we
practiced in that room. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
And you are featured on what is really, in hindsight, a pretty stinking great soundtrack.
Yeah, definitely. And Mike would I can't speak for him, but I know he's very grateful that Matador and Gerard Cosley helped him the soundtrack helped get people to know about the film.
Mm-hmm.
For sure,
because it was on Matador. So yeah.
What from that Starduster record? What is CB? One of the songs is CB.
Yes. So there's a movie called Out of the Blue, and I think it's Dennis Hopper is in it, and it's the main character her name is CB, because it's a truck driver reference, and her nickname was CB, and I got the idea for some of the lyrics from the movie, which I have not watched in decades. Okay. But yeah, it's called Out of the Blue. Yep. Look at that. See the YouTube that you can.
We'll have to put the trailer in the show notes.
Yeah, I should go. I don't know if that movie holds up. It probably does, actually. I haven't watched it in a long time.
Well, the song holds up.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all that matters.
That was we used to play that song pretty much every night. That was a really fun song to play.
I tell you what, I have certain playlists that I think we all probably have a greatest of all time type of playlist floating around somewhere. The song Cake is on every version I've ever made of that.
Cool.
I wonder if there's anything particular, thinking back on that record and that song, if there's anything that stands out memory-wise about the song Cake.
Yeah, I can say one thing. That was one of my favorite songs to play.
Yeah, that was
and
another
if there
one we
was
played all the time.
one that I would want to revive, that would be on my short list of very old songs. And part of it is the drum beat at the beginning of the song, just the way I enter. It was completely accidental. Like, I almost want to say it was like a foot spasm.
Yeah.
But I liked the feel of it. And so then I had to get it so I could do it. Yeah. So for me, that song is always about the drum part that just kind of emerged, not with such intention, but just felt like I managed to snatch it out of the air and then be able to replicate it, which was very satisfying. But yeah, when we all come in together, that was always so fun. So fun.
Well, that song was written in that practice space that we were talking about. In those days, a lot of songs just came out of jamming, and I like that. Just whatever, for some whatever weird reason, riffs pop into your brain. I started playing that, and everyone joined in, and we were like, "Oh, that's gonna be really good. That's super fun." It's so we, when that first like riff, and then the first like kind of tune, like octavey guitar part going up, we kind of immediately knew that one was worth spending more time on. It was fun. We kind of knew it right away that was going to be a good one.
I've spent a lot of time with your back catalog with headphones on this past week or so, and
Cool.
and I wonder, I think you've always been a 3-piece. There's a lot of second and sometimes third guitar overdubs on your records. Was there ever an extra guitar player on the road, or did you ever entertain the notion?
We are now a 4-piece, actually.
For the first time ever.
For the first time really ever, though, we have had a few, there have been many times where we've had different people play guitar.
For fun.
Yeah, back when we lived in New York, I can think of a few different people. And then a friend of ours up here played with us a couple times. Mainly, most of the reasons for those times were because it was like the records have lots of extra guitars, and then eventually started having lots of extra keyboards. So when we moved to Boston in 2002 from New York, we had started recording a record, but we had also had a kid, and there was this very, very long stretch of recording that record, which we were recording in Hartford, Connecticut, which is basically exactly halfway between New York and Boston. So,
and that was after Mike was gone down
Mike had left the band to devote himself, one, to another band, and Mike writes about this on his blogs all the time, to another band with a guy that just totally screwed him. That's a whole other story, and also more importantly for his film career. So Mike had recorded our 4th album, The Brighter Shore, that a friend of ours, Eric Masnaga from the Dam Builders, put out on his label. And then our friend Dan, who was in Hypno Love Wheel and has this great band called The Special Pillow, played bass with us for a while because we had a new record coming out and our bass player had quit the band. So we knew we needed to play some shows. So Dan was kind of like an interim. We moved to Boston. He was still in New York. Well, he lives in Hoboken. And then we finally met. We had 2 kids, so we never ever really stopped playing. I don't think there's a year that we haven't never played like at least a couple of shows. But it was obviously slow when our kids were little. And then we met this guy, Derek, who teaches at the high school that Rachel teaches at. And I know when the first show he ever played for us, someone asked us to play a John Kerry benefit in Providence, Rhode Island. So it was whatever year John Kerry was running for president, which I think
2004.
was 2004, right? Yeah. So that's what we started playing with Derek, and he teaches with us, and he lives near us, and our kids are the same age, and his wife was our friend, sadly his late wife now. But so we started playing with Derek, who is a phenomenal bass player, like definitely a different level of musician than either of us or even anyone we played with. And it was great, but we were still a 3-piece with him. But then he's also a keyboard player, and he got a Wurlitzer electric piano, so playing a lot of keyboard. And we played for many years, like of the last 10 years, as a 3-piece where Derek would play bass on half the set.
20 years.
Actually, that's true.
For 20 years.
But what I'm talking about is when Derek started playing more keyboards.
I
So
know,
we would play
that's
a lot of
true.
shows where Derek would switch between bass and keyboards. And then when he
Right.
played keyboards, there wouldn't be a bass.
Right. And that started to drive him bananas.
Yes.
And there were certain songs, we would have these debates like, well, we can do that keyboard song with no bass. But then these two, like, no, it's better to just not do it at all. So then that led to us getting this guy, Ani, to play with us.
Actually, what really led to us getting Ani, who we've been playing with for like a year now, he's great. He also temporarily taught at their school.
Yeah.
He also brings the average age of our band down because he's like 30 years old. But he's a great bass player. And Derek had been playing some of his solo music with Ani. And Derek can play pretty much everything. So he started playing a lot of guitar, and he's like, I want to play some guitar. And I was like, okay. So he started playing guitar, and he's like, why don't we have, then it was really weird to not have a bass player, like two guitars, no bass. So,
right. So we had our daughter do a couple shows.
Yes, our son is one of the people who's played guitar with us. And our daughter has played bass with us. Mm-hmm. And now Derek switches between guitar and keyboards. Cool. Yeah. And we are truly a 4-piece now for the first time ever, which is so fun. And it's opened up all these, I know, like we're talking about the old stuff. I'm just getting like we have a bunch of new songs where I play acoustic guitar and Derek plays the Telecaster, plays electric guitar, Ani plays bass. And it's just been super, super, super fun to be in that zone. It makes everything a little bit easier. Like
certainly to replicate what's recorded, having a fourth person is very useful.
Right. And then another shift in our music in the past like 10 years has been very much a lot more 3-part harmony where both of us are singing and Derek is singing. Mm-hmm. And that's also easier not in a trio. You know, because if there's just one guitar, it kind of has to cover everything. So all of this is like just
we were a trio for a long time to get back to the original question.
Yeah,
and it's very exciting to now be a 4-piece and does feel, in fact, essential.
I would actually. I mean, it would have to be the right person because part of what's fun about this band is that Derek and Ani and the two of us. It's just super fun. It's like it is just as fun now. In fact, it's more fun by far in a lot of ways. I mean, one thing is like when we practiced when Starduster came out, we practiced in that building in Hoboken. It took us like an hour and a half to get to our practice space on the subway in New York and the PATH train, and then like a 2-mile walk to the practice space. And now we can go into our basement and practice. You know, and Derek lives like 7 minutes from us, and he has a band room in his house. So Ani lives in Framingham, which is a little further away, but we just play music. It's funny because in the Starduster days, we played music we practiced like 3 times a week.
Yeah, for like 3 hours at a time.
Totally insane. And then for a long time, it was much more focused. Like if we had a show, we would practice a bunch of songs, make sure we're ready for the show. And now we're kind of back to like playing music all the time. And it's awesome. It's super fun.
It's so funny to me because Keith and I have a lot of overlap. We share a lot of taste, but there are definitively Geoff bands and definitively Keith bands.
Yeah, that's good.
And your band lives in both spaces simultaneously on different ends of your career because if you listen to Starduster, you go, that's a Geoff band. Holy cow.
Yeah.
If you listen to Wild Sometimes and your newer material, you go, that's a Keith band.
100%. 100%.
Cool.
In one sentence on the website, you describe yourself as, and I want to capture this right, conjuring the subtly infectious, laissez-faire sounds of pre-grunge indie rock, and embracing early in your career evoking classic Laurel Canyon country rock. I think that's that pre-grunge indie is maybe pre-2000.
I want to add to that quote this one that I got: a scrappy sound that balanced the hooky sweetness of indie pop, the buzzing guitars of indie rock, and this is the line that got me, and a little bit of AOR swagger.
For sure. Yeah. So I think so. I think what it is so like the indie rock thing of the 90s that we were like that's like built into our DNA, I guess, right? Like that's like the band started, that's what we sounded like, and that's there somewhere. But we like all kinds of music, and for us, like I love Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as much as I love my Sonic Youth and My Bloody Valentine. So
there's a Mark Maron bit on Tom Petty.
Oh,
because everyone loves Petty.
I haven't.
And it can solve all the world's problems, you know. If we could all, like Trump, listen to Petty.
Yep.
Well, how are we going to communicate now? And he's like, well, come on, man. You know, we're all Americans. And I'm like, no. Not enough. Not going to be enough. Well, come on. We everyone loves, Tom Petty and burritos. Yeah, that's true, but I don't think Petty is enough to bridge this gap. I just don't think that he has that power at this juncture.
Well, it's funny because when Trump tries to use I won't back down in his rallies, the Petty estate gets on his case. Yeah. When you mentioned Mark, how do you say his
Mark
name?
Maron.
I never say it. I never know how to say it right. It's funny because Bill Janovitz from Buffalo Tom told me there was an episode that he did with him, and he mentioned Sleepyhead in it. And he told, but I never went and listened to it. I probably should.
Oh, you got to.
I think it's a story. It's a Buffalo Tom story where they were playing in New York way back, and all their equipment got stolen while they did a radio interview on NYU's radio station. And Mike, I think,
out of their van.
So we just loaned them our stuff that night, and I think that was cemented up. Okay, these are good dudes.
So I hooked my station wagon to their trailer and we drove off together. What Connie felt, she kept to herself. Pulled into a pretty grove of pines and made ourselves comfortable. Then I heard music.
I also think we've all gotten to be better musicians, and we've worked at it, and better singers. And these are all things we've really worked on. So it's a grow. We feel like we're growing, and we don't I don't feel like that necessarily. The stuff from the 90s we love, and I'm super proud of it, and it's still part of us. So I think for a long time we really didn't play old music. Derek never played on any of it anyway, and Ani certainly didn't. But we now what's gonna set you free? We play a lot. In fact, our son is you guys got to play that. That's your most played song on Spotify. We're okay. He's 22 and just graduated college, and our daughter is just finished her first year of college. So a lot of music in our house. Yes. So we're still going. We have this single coming out in August, and it's it's my two favorite songs I think we've ever written. Rachel sings one, I sing the other, and Derek also writes too. So we now have Derek songs sometimes. So some of my favorite bands have multiple lead singers. So Like, I really like to have the mix. You know, if you look at our older stuff, Rachel always sings like a couple songs, but now she sings like a lot more. And, you know, like Fleetwood Mac, My Bloody Valentine.
You're right. That's definitely been a part of the evolution, because I think even up to the Brighter Shore, it was, that's a Chris song, that's a Rachel song. But with Wild Sometimes, you started singing more together.
Yeah.
You know, like a song like Family Tree, where, you know, you got some really nice harmonies layered in there. It's a lot more mature, I think.
Yep. And that's where it started, that record, because we in Hartford we were recording with Michael Deming, who did like the Apples in Stereo and the Lilies and all that, and he is like he's like a trained musician, so a lot of the harmonies he was helping us write them, or he'd sit there and like we're in the studio trying to figure it out, and he's like, no, that's got to be a B, Rachel, go back in there. Like, and he has this very gruff personality, but we had a great relationship with him, so it never, our feelings were never hurt. And then we kind of learned from him how to do that. And then Derek also. He's like,
yes.
So we'll sit around in this room often, and like with my little Casio SK1, like trying to make sure that our harmonies are right, so that when we go into the studio, which is expensive, we don't.
Right.
And then there's always something that's wrong that you only hear in the studio, and it's like but that's okay, as long as we're mostly there.
Yeah. We've learned how to create something new right on the spot when necessary.
Yeah, we have a couple more new songs that we're maybe going to record by the end of the summer, but if not, in the fall, definitely. So this guy, Al, who's putting out the single on his label Dromedary, this small label, is going to put out our next record too.
Oh, great.
Which is fun. Because we released a record in 2022, just ourselves, digital only. It's called New Alchemy. We made a few videos, hired a publicist. But this is fun because now we got someone else. He hired a publicist. he's making the I mean, we are too. Obviously, it's a you know, very artist label combined business model, I guess. But
sure.
But it's really fun to have a record coming out on physical media. Well, there's the compilation that you referred to that has the 2 Homestead records on it. That was fun.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that you said I like Tom Petty, because as I was listening to New Alchemy, there's a standout track to me that I put on repeat and listened to over and over and over, and that was Fort Misery. And
that's Derek's song.
Oh, Derek wrote that. Yes, it's a beautiful song.
I think there's some Tom Petty in that, man. I dig it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That, not to bring the whole conversation down, but Derek lost his wife, who was a dear friend of ours, and a lot of those songs he wrote at that. We had a rough couple of years writing New Alchemy. I lost my father. Rachel lost her sister. Derek lost his wife, all within like less than 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
All cancer. So Derek's songs in particular were very heavily influenced
in the aftermath.
by the aftermath of that. He has 3 sons. They were pretty young at the time, but Fort Misery, that's a heartfelt song, but beautiful.
It absolutely is. Keith, I'm surprised you're not invoking your New Haven roots there.
Are you from New Haven?
I live in New Haven.
Oh, you live in New Haven.
Yeah. You guys are in Boston, yeah? Outside?
We're in Boston.
Okay.
I'm from Cape Cod originally.
Okay, whereabouts?
Falmouth.
Okay. My aunt and uncle used to have a place up in Wellfleet.
Awesome.
Oh, we love it there.
We are going to Provincetown next week for our 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's terrific.
But I grew up in Cape Cod and went to NYU, where the band started.
We were there around the same time. I was at SVA.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Right around the same time, 89, 90.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to ask you about, there's a New Haven, I never pronounce his name correctly. Ed Velasquez.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So the studio that we record at, which is in Cambridge, called Q Division Studios. Ed is the studio manager, engineer, does everything there.
Okay.
So we know him through Q Division Studios. Now he's the owner. John Lupper has produced all our most recent stuff, and will continue to do so.
Okay.
Q Division was like the first Pixies record was done there, but in a different location in Boston. It's moved a few times. This is now their third home, but this is like the ultimate because they bought the building. And
Okay.
so Ed, we see Ed. Do you know Ed from New Haven? I know.
We have similar.
Yeah.
We have similar people
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we know, but
He's an awesome guy.
yeah.
Awesome guy.
We changed,
big fan of pizza.
and a big fan of the Replacements, if I remember correctly, because we
I'm sure.
we bonded over the Replacements because there was a band, a Spanish rock band called the Ride-Ons.
I never heard of
that
that.
I tried to track down, and they had recorded at that studio. So I contacted the studio. He was kind enough to reply to me. And I said, "Oh, it reminds me of the Replacements." He's like, "I love the Replacements." We went back and forth a few times. He sent me a stack of CDs.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Tommy Stinson just played like a little mini show at the studio a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
We couldn't go to it. Yeah, we didn't.
I got to see him in a backyard last summer. That was
cool. So we saw the Replacements when they reformed for Boston Calling. Back when Boston Calling was a much smaller festival, although that was amazing. So I saw the Replacements on the Pleased to Meet Me tour when I was like, I guess I was in high school.
Same here.
Yeah,
87.
and then I have a very sad Replacements story. I had tickets to see the Replacements. I think the Orpheum in Boston when I was still in high school. So my girlfriend at the time and two other friends, we had 4 tickets. They fell out of my pocket while we were like getting lunch or dinner or something, and that was it. We didn't get to go to the show.
Oh no!
Did you still have a girlfriend and friends afterwards?
Yes, I did. They were very nice about it.
Good.
Very nice about it. I'm very glad that I had seen them before that. But then the show that we saw them in Boston Calling was amazing. They were great.
I got to see him 3 times. Never ever been disappointed. The Pleased to Meet Me is still my favorite. That is to this date the loudest concert I've ever seen.
I remember that being really loud. That was at the Living Room in Providence, which is like it's
a pretty small place.
Medium size. Yeah, not that big.
Yeah. Who did I see there? I think I saw Buffalo Tom. I saw there. And the Gin Blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So growing up on Cape Cod, Providence is actually a little bit closer than Boston.
Yeah.
Definitely easier to go to.
Yeah.
So, and I had some friends in Providence who were in college, a little older than me. So I saw a lot of shows in Providence. And then Sleepyhead actually lived in Providence for a summer when we first started the band.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Because the summer of 90.
Because we found like a sublet from some Brown students. It was so incredibly cheap in this giant Victorian house. And we had a practice space lined up with our friends at Six Finger Satellite. And
Perfect.
it was actually the guys from Rick from Velvet Crush that helped a lot to get our first single put out.
Yep.
Who was a Providence band.
Very cool. Very cool. It's all connected out here, Geoff.
It's all connected.
I still marvel when you say it's the loudest thing you've ever seen. I just think my first thought is I've got to get Keith out to a Melvins concert.
Yeah, well, for me, it's My Bloody Valentine for sure. And it's the first time I saw them. I didn't know. I didn't have earplugs. I knew every one of their songs so well, and it was so loud that I could not figure out what song they were playing. It was terrifying. So it really was. I actually think that they were opening. I saw them twice back then. One of the times they were opening up for Dinosaur Jr.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
and they were Dinosaur Jr. is up there with Volume 2. But it was just. I think I started wearing earplugs after that show. I was like, if I'm going to keep going to see music like this, I'm not going to be able to hear anything, and I'm going to ruin myself. So
yeah,
indeed,
that was loud.
I love the fact that you describe it as terrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was like. It was like my brain could not process the information that was coming into my head. I was like putting my fingers over, and then I could hear the song. So when we saw My Bloody Valentine a few years ago, did both our kids come to that?
Yeah, I think so.
I was like, everyone.
I know. We had like
earplug
extra
check?
earplugs.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on labels and genre labels, because you reference pre-grunge indie, and your band was fortunate enough to play Lollapalooza. I mean, you've been in some of those circles.
Yeah. that was funny. We played with Royal Trucks and Cell on the small stage in Philadelphia, and like Dinosaur Jr. I think was on the big stage. Tool, Rage Against, big stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like. I mean, obviously we're often called an indie rock band. In the 90s, there was this like love rock thing that I think was like maybe, and everyone who was called that was like the wrong name, I thought. And it bugged me at the time a lot, but you can't really decide what other people are going to call you what they call you.
Right.
So I mean, obviously we're sort of still an indie rock band, just if you mean that we're on independent labels,
Right.
You know, but I just think that we're a rock band.
It's probably the easiest way to categorize it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we're gonna play like when we play this show at the end of the month. We've actually been learning a Beatles cover. We've never played a Beatles song ever.
Oh, which one?
And Your Bird Can Sing.
Oh, good choice.
So we had to sit there, and Derek and I figured out the 2 different guitar parts so we can.
Yeah.
And Ani doesn't even like the Beatles, which is kind of funny. He's game for it, but.
Yeah, the love rock thing, that is an interesting phenomenon because I'm going to read from the Slumberland Records site. 20 years ago, there was a thing called love rock, championing a youthful and naive approach to music. Love rock bands like Beat Happening and Love Child created a sound both joyous and dark. But they said Sleepyhead was at the forefront. Like, were you?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just one of those things. I think it's just like labels just are so weird. I think people care so much less about labels now.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, like there just used to be that thing where like, and I definitely, this is the way my mindset was too. Like anything commercial was just automatically bad back then. So I hear music sometimes from the 80s and 90s that at the time I was like, that is terrible. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so great. Why did I like just decide? And all the stuff that I like that was much more obscure, I also think is great. They're nowadays, like our kids, they do not, none of that matters to them.
Right.
You could be like the most bazillion selling artist or the most tiny obscure band. Mm-hmm. And if you're good, it's both good. So I love that change. I think is a healthy change
for sure.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Mr. Microphone. Hey, what's that? Well, you set the dial on your FM radio and testing. I'm on the radio.
Broadcast over any FM car radio.
Hey, good looking. We'll be back to pick you up later.
Riz.
Greetings.
Gendered language.
Onomatopoeias.
The ick.
What makes some words sound funny?
Why just listen to music when you can overanalyze the words in the songs?
Music, language, and Eurovision all crammed into one podcast.
Getting down and wordy with Russell and Hannah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Keith, I confess I put the hook in a little deep on the invite to the show. I had the record. I had Starduster. It meant a lot to me. Yeah. I started working in college radio, and I think a lot of people that have touched a college radio station are familiar with something called CMJ, College Music Journal. CMJ puts on a fantastic, or I don't know if they still do, but at one point they put on
anymore. We have a bunch of friends who worked at CMJ.
A fantastic music festival in New York. And my roommate and I at the time scammed the university into paying for our trip. We were like, we want to go to this thing. And it's, hey, it would be give us school credit to go to this music festival.
Yeah. It's basically so, what South by Southwest is now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So there were it was so eye-opening to me because there were specific acts that we kind of, put the check mark next to. And for me, Sleepyhead was near the top of the list. I had to see Sleepyhead on this roster. Nice. It was like 96, 97. And
do you remember where we played?
I could only tell you that the room was so disappointingly small. I walked in and thought, what is happening? This is like,
I'm going to guess it was the Spiral.
Maybe.
Downstairs at the Spiral, maybe.
I mean, it looked like it served as like a 4 top Italian
You
restaurant
thought
during
we were
the
gonna be,
day.
like at Madison Square Garden or something.
Yeah, so it really opened my eyes. And I remember on that same festival, I went and saw the Smoking Popes, and I was like, what are we doing? Why are the Smoking Popes playing in front of 15 people? This is fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
It is always so surprising when you're. Well, I got a Tuscaloosa story for you.
Oh, bring it on.
We played in Tuscaloosa once.
Hopefully at the Chucker.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, I only remember that because we have a post. So we because Rachel was a teacher, a lot of our tours we did in the summer, which is not the best time to be in college town.
It is not.
So some places it was totally fine, like Chicago or whatever. But Tuscaloosa, that's a college town. So we get to Tuscaloosa.
Right. Well, wait, and we're driving, and we notice there's lots of posters that have been like pasted up, and so we're like, oh, that must be for the show, but we're going by quickly. So that's the only background you need.
Rachel
for this
should probably
moment.
tell the story because
I know,
I'm the one who was a little bit. It's a little bit embarrassing. I'm like,
oh no, it's so anyway. So then finally we park, and I see Chris like walk over to get closer to one of the posters, and well. Anyone listening will not see the motion of my body, but you guys can appreciate this. So imagine I see the back of him, and I see he goes up to the poster, and I just see
no,
totally dropped shoulders.
You don't have the story. No,
I do.
no, she's got the story wrong. Sorry. We'll have to confirm. I get out and I look at the poster. And it's a poster for a show that night with a band called Sleepyhead.
Yes, we agree.
No, listen. It says Flippyhead, and I turned to Mike and Rachel.
No.
I said, that's so weird. There's another band playing tonight called Sleepyhead.
Oh no!
And they both looked at me like, you idiot.
Oh man.
Us. They messed it up,
Right.
and that's when my shoulders sank.
All right, that might be
Yes,
true.
I
He
am
might be
totally.
right. He might be right.
And then the posters were everywhere. So whatever few people would have heard of us, we weren't even on the poster. We were
I
listed
know.
as Flippyhead.
and we think
I have one of those.
we
somewhere.
do
Yeah.
up in the attic. We think it was because the person who booked the show was a French speaker.
It was. Yeah,
Yes.
you're right.
His
And
name is
so-
Ludovic, and he is very French.
Oh, you know him.
And
Yeah.
somehow Sleepyhead became Flippyhead.
Yes.
Like,
Wow.
Ludovic Gobert.
All right, so this is a little bit connected to what you were saying about seeing the small room. So it might have even been that same tour. We had some really weird shows in New Orleans. But one show we had in New Orleans, we got there, and the promoter had said we were going to be in a normal, smallish club. And he's like, I had to move your show. And we were opening for Gwar.
Oh,
And the singer of
but the not costume.
they were remember the guitar player in Gwar got shot. They were like in their van. It was like, so he had no health insurance, of course, at that time. And they to raise money for him, they quickly put together a bunch of shows, and they played as Rog, which is Gwar spelled backwards. So they didn't have any of the costumes. They just played straight up. And one of the guys in the band actually loved Sleepyhead. He was the bass player. Anyway, I'm really digressing. That was one weird New Orleans show because it was like the singer from Pantera or something. It was all these metal kids.
We
And
were in
they
like
threw it, and it was a big, big room.
It was like an air.
It was like we
hangar.
played a song, and like a few people would clap.
Oh yeah, it was. They mostly just a lot of people silently watching.
Our other New Orleans show was we get there, and it's in the summer, and there's
Yeah.
nobody in the club, but basically the sound man. So we're like, you know
and
what?
one person.
There
was one person.
hardly anybody. We're like, you know what? We're just gonna play our heart out.
Yeah.
We came, we played our heart out, and we felt like, okay, we did it. The sound man put us up for the night. And at the end of the year, that one person who was there was like the music writer for the New Orleans Times-Picayune and wrote his 10 best shows of the year, mentioned us in there.
Nice.
That is amazing.
So that was your proof. Like,
Always do the full show.
just don't, just do your best. You never know.
I think the Flippyhead night though, we did incorporate Sleepyhead into the lyrics for a moment as we sing, because it was just so funny.
I think we also incorporated a lot of beer and just kind of had a bit of a crazy night.
I tell you what, if you have that flyer and can scan it and send it to me,
send it to you,
oh my! So yes,
you can take a picture of it. That'd be great.
That sounds totally cool.
Just absolutely. Oh, what a funny memory. Well, listen, gang, I am curious to know why, because to me, and I was confessing to Keith before we got on, me and Discogs need to get divorced. We got to break up because all of my disposable income is going to Discogs right now. When I pulled Starduster up on Discogs and found a copy on vinyl for sale, I snagged it immediately. And to my very great surprise, it arrived still in the wrapper. There are still unopened copies of this record to be had out there. So for you vinyl collectors out there, just know that
you can find them. You can find the Ulta. We have some of certain things. I keep thinking like I should put some of those on our Bandcamp. But then I'm like, and then I have to commit to shipping them.
Then you got to go to the post office and you're mailing shit to Alabama. And you're like, who's this Geoff guy?
You can usually find, most of them are pretty cheap, actually, very cheap.
So why the decision to bundle Starduster and Communist Love Songs into the Future Exhibit Goes Here release? Because you can't find Starduster on its own streaming anywhere. It really only exists as Future Exhibit.
Right. It only exists as that. Yeah. It's basically the guy who runs that small record label. He just wanted to do it. He wanted to put those out. Communist Love Songs never came out on vinyl. It only came out on CD. So like he just put those two together, and it was a lot of that. It was really Mike and that guy who, Mike put the nice photos book together and everything like that. And we were like, yeah, let's get that out there. It'll be more accessible for people. And obviously Homestead does not exist anymore. So So it's good that people can find that now. Yeah.
And speaking of vinyl, you have a new 7-inch coming out.
Yeah, we got a new 7-inch. I actually think we're going to get the test pressings relatively soon. So
Katie, your thumb took a hit, she was gone. What do you want me to do? Trying to hang on to the dead new mom, though I honestly don't have a clue. Is this even real? Do you feel like I feel? 'Cause I feel like I might have come through. First light at dawn, look, the fog is gone. There's nothing out there obscuring the view. Out of the clear blue sky, this is too good to be true.
reissue that you're talking about was on vinyl, definitely. But our last record was just digital only, and then 2014, the Carrot Top record was on vinyl. But it's actually vinyl's much bigger now than it was in 2014.
Yeah.
It's so. I press on a relatively small number of them, but I'm excited. And then the guy's going to also put out our next record on vinyl too.
That's awesome.
To me, that's just
Right.
wonderful to me.
And I learned a new craft to make the cover for the 7-inch.
Is it
quilling? Wait, I'll grab it. I'll get it.
Cluing?
Yeah, Rachel made the cover.
I thought you said quilling.
Quilling. It is called quilling. It's like you're going to see. It's like these little pieces of paper that you kind of twirl. I think that's what it's called. We'll check. She's getting it from the dining room, I think.
Interesting.
I feel like this is some cool inside trading stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So can you see it's like...
It's actually 3D.
Yeah, it's like paper.
Oh.
Little strips of paper that you roll up. It was so fun. I like to make
I'll
things.
send you a copy of the actual cover with the text, but you can
it's very
see
cool.
You can see the shadows from it.
Yeah.
It's
Very cool.
photograph of it.
Was it very hard to make?
No, it was not. I mean, there was a learning curve because you coil up the paper and you get it in the shape you want, but then you basically have to get glue on that edge. Like, think of how thin a piece of paper is. So you're like dipping it in, smoothed out glue, and then placing it.
It would be hard for me.
Yeah, I don't think I have the patience for that.
I recommend it. It's fun.
It sounds
looks lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it did. It came out good. It really did.
I saw that Keith has his white whale. You're actually label mates with one of my white whales. I would love to get John Hall on the show. I saw that you're playing with King Missile at the upcoming festival.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
That's super neato.
Well, that's the guy. That's the guy who's going to put our record out. He sets this whole thing up. It's like his passion. It's fun. He's Al.
Yeah.
Al C.
Al has a very cool record label.
Yes, he does, and it's super fun for him. It's like the way the band is fun for us. The label is fun for him. It's like a perfect match.
Sure. Well, that sounds just great.
Let's get a few shit. Yeah.
It does.
You seem very, very happy making music there, sort of in your backyard.
Yeah.
Is there any ambition to ever go on the road again?
Yeah, definitely. Like if that could work,
It'd have to be in the summer.
It'd have to be in the summer.
Vacations.
but we're all everyone in the
teachers.
band is a teacher, and our kids are also older now.
Yeah.
So we are totally open to it if we could make that happen. We have regular jobs. We don't need to do it to make money. So
right.
If we can do it and we don't lose too much money and it's for the love of it. Yeah, totally love to do that.
Oh well,
I hope sometime in the next, I'm gonna guess when we finish the next record and actually have a label, that we'll see if we will try to time it with the end of the spring, early summer, so that we can maybe do some stuff. We've done a few little things, like we made it down to Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a few years.
Yeah. Mostly lately, we're just in our little Providence, New York City, Boston.
Yeah.
Do you ever play in New Haven? Does anybody ever play in New Haven?
We have no contact.
Yeah,
so.
we have played in New Haven a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing I want to get on, because I want to Brattleboro, Vermont, Northampton, Mass, New Haven, obviously New York City, places we can book a Saturday show.
Yeah.
And just go for fun, and then make it back to Boston the next day, and little things like that. Regional bands. I was talking to this guy Bobby who plays in Oneida, but he lives up here, and this other band was playing locally, and we went, and I was talking to him about it. He's like, oh, he had the same idea.
Yes.
He's like, that's what we want to do.
Regional bands.
It's like the 50s. It's like when there were these rock and roll bands that were regional bands before Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly. I think there were lots of little bands that would there'd be a little Midwest circuit. There'd be a little New England circuit. So
yeah, there's an Ohio circuit for sure. Keith, it sounds like it's time for you to branch out, maybe get into Abandoned Albums concert promotions.
Yeah, there you go.
Not as though it hasn't crossed my mind.
Oh, well, hey, Chris, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on and
This was very fun.
spending an hour with us. It's fun to hear your stories, and super fun for me to go back and just like obsess over Starduster again. I did. Love it so much.
I will, if you're interested, I'll burn this CD and send you those other versions. They're kind of cool.
I would love it. Yeah. I would love it. Eat it up.
And we'll send you some pictures. I'll find that flyer, and we'll send you guys a link to the new single.
That'd be great. And when does the single come out?
August 29th.
Oh, okay, good.
August 29th. And then I like this festival we're playing on Labor Day weekend, Drum Fest it's called. If you buy the VIP pass, you get a free copy of our single. And he actually sold a bunch of VIP passes last year. So the good thing with that is it allowed him to press a little bit more, a bigger run of them, which makes them cheaper.
Cool.
You know,
Yeah,
so
awesome.
So I think the actual vinyl will be ready. We were a little worried it wasn't going to be ready quite by then, but it's looking good. It's ahead of schedule. So
very cool. Well, when you start booking the summer 2025 tour and you're looking for an Alabama date, I'm your guy.
Okay.
I would actually I loved playing in the South.
Yeah.
I would love to get back there.
Awesome.
All right. So nice to talk to you.
Very nice.
You taking the time.
Yeah.
This was super fun. All right.
Take care, guys.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Thank you to Rachel and Chris for making time to chat about the history of Sleepyhead.
This episode of Abandoned Albums was written and produced by Keith R. Higgins and Geoff Calhoun. The show was recorded at Thunderlove Studio, where it was engineered by
Daphne Morris,
with help from
Penetration.
Abandoned Albums was edited by
Vic Titball,
with help from
Clem Fandango.
At the beginning of this podcast, you were treated to a diverse selection of music, including the soulful sounds of Forever by Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul, the indie vibes of Velvet Roof by Buffalo Tom, and the raw energy of Nevermind by The Replacements. Our theme song is Kiss the Earth by The Renegades. You can stream all of these artists wherever you stream your favorite music. The songs you heard during this podcast were their new release, I Guess I'm Hoping That You're Lonely. You also heard Punk Rock City USA, Cake, What's Gonna Set You Free, Solid Gold, and the other new release, Busted Lullaby. Be sure to check out the Sleepyhead Bandcamp page. You can stream Sleepyhead wherever you stream your favorite music. Please remember to support independent artists.
Original music by Mike Pellegrino.
If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps other people find the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Grazie.
Bailey Leaf,
Rob Janicki, Mike Pellegrino, Thurina Bella,
Eric Beatner, S.W. Loudon, Ronnie Barnett,
Michael Janicki, Peyton Janicki.
This show's executive producer is Lulu McGillicuddy and is in the loving memory of...
This is Thunderlove.
Abandoned Albums receives funding from Damon Pharmaceuticals, the makers of Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is the only chewable tablet made to combat stomach unease associated with mediocrity. Taken daily, Ben Affleck can help combat explosive gastrointestinal shame. You can find a multitude of flavors in the incontinence section of your local pharmacy. Ben Affleck, save yourself the embarrassment.
The side effects include dry mouth, headache, anal leakage, muscle soreness, bad decisions, gender confusion, constipation, evil spirit possession, and banality. Use only as directed.
And now, until we meet again next time, I remain as always obediently yours.
Abandoned Albums is a production of Paw Print Media.